The year is 1328 and the Byzantine Empire is unified under Emperor Andronicus III after a devastating 8-year civil war. During the civil war, the Ottomans had conducted a major offensive into Byzantine territory, capturing the city of Pahsa in 1326, and with their new Sultan, Orhan Gazi, begun the siege of Nicaea in 1328. Byzantine cities and forts in Asia Minor were falling to the Ottomans in quick succession, like falling domino pieces. The Byzantine situation in Asia Minor was getting worse and worse every day, and Emperor Andronicus III knew that his realm could not further neglect the Ottoman threat to the east. With the help of his grand domestic, John Cantacuzenos, Emperor Andronicus III managed to muster around 2,000 to 4,000 troops for his upcoming campaign against the Ottomans. The goal of the military campaign was to relieve the city of Nicaea from the Ottoman siege and possibly reinforce the empire's frontier to prevent further Turkish raids from being conducted in Bithynia. With war preparations being finished by May of 1329, Andronicus III and his army crossed the Bosphorus into Asia Minor and started their march towards the besieged city of Nicaea. However, after crossing the Bosphorus, the faster and lightly armored Ottoman army led by their new Sultan, Orhan Gazi, had blocked the roads to Nicaea near the modern-day town of Darija, thus halted the Byzantine army in their tracks. Orhan Gazi had encamped his 8,000-strong Ottoman host on a small hill looking down at the Byzantine camp down below, and this resulted in days of both sides reluctant to initiate the battle. Although the Ottomans heavily outnumbered the Byzantines had made up for their difference in numbers with their quality of armor and having a more organized battle formation. After days of both sides conducting brief skirmishes on each other, on June 10th, the battle that would be known as the Battle of Pelekanon officially begun. The two sides had marched their armies out on a plain between their camps, and both armies clashed into one another. Although being heavily outnumbered, the Byzantines had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with as the battle continued to the night. The stalemate was broken when Andronicus III was shot by an arrow to his thigh, thus personally having to be stretchered off the battlefield. Almost immediately, false rumors began to spread across the Byzantine army about Andronicus III being killed in battle. This in turn caused a huge panic in the ranks of the Byzantine army. Sections of the Byzantine army began to rot from the battle, thinking that their emperor had just died. Andronicus III, seeing the dire situation of the Byzantine army, ordered a general retreat during the night, but the retreat turned into a chaotic mass rout of the entire Byzantine army. During the pitch darkness of night, Ottoman Akinci horsemen picked off the remaining routing Byzantine troops who were still in the vicinity of the battlefield. While Emperor Andronicus III was recovering from his wounds in Constantinople, the Grand Domestic John Cantacuzenos led the retreat of the remnants of the Byzantine army across the Bosphorus the following morning. The Battle of Pelekanon was over. The Battle of Pelekanon would be a decisive Ottoman victory. Further Byzantine campaigns into Asia Minor were cancelled, and never again would the Byzantines ever attempt to regain their Asian territories. When Andronicus III first proclaimed his emperorship back in 1320, he was seen as a man that could lead the Byzantines to defeating the Ottomans. But fast forward to 1329, he had led the Byzantines to their worst ever defeat against the Ottomans yet. With no support coming from Constantinople, Nicaea would surrender to the Ottomans by 1331. After the fall of Nicaea, it was only a matter of time that Nicomedia would also fall to the Ottoman war machine. A last-minute bribe was offered by Andronicus III to Orhan Gazi to prevent the fall of the city, but the offer fell on deaf ears. Orhan Gazi's eldest son, Süleyman Pasha, would take charge at the siege of Nicomedia, and the siege would last from 1333 to 1337, which saw Nicomedia sharing the same fate as Nicaea. The former court of the famous Roman Emperor Diocletian had been conquered by the Ottoman Beylik. By the end of 1338, all of Bithynia was conquered by Orhan Gazi, and the Turkification of the region began as Turkish families settled in Nicaea and Nicomedia, which saw the main churches of the city transformed into mosques. Nicaea was heavily damaged during the siege, so much so that over time Nicaea, which would be later named to Iznik, would almost be entirely abandoned and practically became a village by the 1700s. On the other hand, Nicomedia, which would be later named to Izmit, would become a flourishing city under Ottoman rule, which would see the city becoming a major trading hub for goods going to Asia and Europe. It was during this time period that the Ottomans had fully established their own state. Orhan Gazi and his stepbrother Alaeddin Pasha recognized that their territory was evolving into something new and different. While Orhan Gazi was busy being a ruler and a general, his stepbrother Alaeddin Pasha was seeing to the affairs of government, in which he saw the integration of the newly conquered territories into the Ottoman Beylik. Alaeddin Pasha also overhauled the Ottoman military by creating and funding a standing army of regular troops. Former Anatolian warlords tended to run a completely martial realm, but as the Ottoman lands expanded, that traditional system became undesirable. Many of the new subjects of the Ottoman Beylik weren't born as natural horse archers, and it was recognized that in order to make use of the manpower available, greater use of infantry and archers would have to be made, and these roles being integrated into the army. While it was true that this new Ottoman army couldn't be as mobile and couldn't use the classic attack and feint tactics of the legendary horse archers of the era, it was larger and more flexible than ever before. Also, it was during this time that the Ottomans established their own monetary system in which silver coins were stamped in Orhan Gazi's name. Alaeddin Pasha's third and final reform, and perhaps his most important, was his clothing reforms. Right from the start of the creation of the Ottoman Beylik, there was a multitude of different ethnicities under the Sultan's authority, and Alaeddin Pasha understood that this was something to be encouraged and enhanced by the regulation of dress. Western travelers to the empire in later centuries would marvel at the kaleidoscope of colors and fashions worn by the empire's different ethnic groups. These new outfits could identify the wearer as a Jew, an Albanian, a Greek, a Turk, or a Armenian, and so forth. This was not to single out any group for discrimination, but to provide a visual reminder that it didn't matter who your god was or what language you spoke. Everyone in the empire lived in the authority and the protection of the Ottoman Sultan. However, the pious and hard-working first Grand Vizier of the Ottoman Empire passed away in 1331, leaving his trusted office to Nizamuddin Ahmet Pasha. The reforms of Alaeddin Pasha ensured the survival of this new Ottoman state for centuries to come. While the Ottomans were finishing up their conquest of Bithynia and establishing their new state, the wars in the Balkans were only escalating as Bulgaria and Serbia were locked in a full-on war with each other. This war would engulf the Byzantine Empire, which would see all three nations fighting amongst each other. The Balkans were set ablaze, and the Ottomans had first-row seats to watch this mayhem that would engulf the region for decades to come. It would be only a matter of time that the Ottomans would be knocking on the gates of Europe. Thank you for watching this edition of Ottoman Wars.